Hi, I'm Mark, producer of Roundtable, the TV series born here in New York City at the legendary Manhattan Neighborhood Network Studios. The exchange of ideas is important, and that is why we bring to you the following presentation. Please watch.
Good evening, and welcome to Single Shot Show at Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Tonight we have quite a different thought we will be discussing today. Recently, especially because of known to everybody banana and duct tape incident, we had a lot of opinions on the program that was essentially coming down to the idea that it's nowadays impossible to become an artist. And every obstacle, every personal difference of the artist not being something extremely mainstream, making it even more difficult. We've heard an opinion about it being harder to become an artist when you're a female. We discussed how hard it is to become an artist if you're doing something new and different. And today we have an opportunity to actually question all this. We have here in the studio an artist, a brilliant photographer who is an experimental photographer who recently joined artistic community of New York City and who creates very unusual works that are very different from what was seen before, and who actually succeeding on a big scale, taking art world by storm. So we wanted to see her here and to see how she is doing it. Hello, Anna Khachatryan.
Hi.
Nice to have you in the studio, and with extreme pleasure introducing somebody who actually went against all these beliefs I was just discussing and so far being victorious. So thank you very much for joining us today. And as I said before, I really admire what you do artistically, and it's really a new world in photography. It's very thoughtful, very different from what everybody else does. So can you tell us what is the secret to actually make a quality art to start succeeding, and as I understand, relatively quickly, right?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me today. This is for me such a pleasure, and I'm very happy to be here and share a little bit story about me. So I came to New York a year and a half ago from Armenia, and so I came here for my dream to be artist. And I started do this artistic type of photography in my country, Armenia, and I was studying as a student. And the first day I started to do that, lots of people start telling me that you're doing something really unusual. It's scary. It's kind of like someone who have problem with his head. And but the reason I started to do that, because I kind of feel some sort of, I always love this magic, the fantasy, the other reality, and I feel that I have something like that inside to me. I believe that the video and photography, when you do, it doesn't need to be looks like as a reality, because we already live in a reality.
I totally agree with that.
It's have to be another reality, something people don't see yet, and they have to see that the other reality and try to be part of it, or try to see that there is actually can be another reality. And that was the whole idea to do this type of photography that I started to do.
Oh, it's great, and the results are indeed stunning. So let's start with actually talking about what you create artistically, because no matter what, this is the foundation of the success you currently starting to enjoy, right? So when you create a photograph, what exactly you're trying to create? What kind of reality is behind those images? Is there any underlying thought you're trying to say, or it's just the dreams, just questioning the reality in general?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly just the dreams. Like it's like my dreams, and they kind of with me all the time. So I never like write what I have to shoot next day. I never write script. I never get ready for shoot. So I just try to do all the improvisation. I go to the studio, and it's kind of, I feel that that fantasy that I have inside me, and it happens very quickly, and I know already what I have to do after what, and it's like all in my head. And after the result, people see and they like, yeah, this is like so different. This is so interesting. Like, what is this? And more I start to understand that it's really different when I came New York and I get to the galleries and I see the reaction of people, and I kind of start believe myself. I understand that I'm doing something right and I have to keep it.
Well, the reactions in terms of saying that something is beautiful and interesting is very familiar for a lot of artists, but getting it actually to work as something instrumental to actually improve your standing as an artist is a completely different trick, but we'll get to that later on. Let's still talk a little bit more about your work. So you're saying on one hand it's improvisation, but on the other hand you already have the imagery in your mind when you're creating it, and how close what you have in your mind to the actual result? How much it's changing during the process?
Yeah, it depends the tools I have in that moment, because sometimes it's exactly what I was planning. Like I see already, like I see the colors, and first I see the colors, and then I know I need a, for example, blue dress, and I need a yellow furniture, and it's kind of I'm getting close to what I see here, because I can say that I see like really whole picture, and I feel the colors, and maybe music start to inspire me, and I start see the concept, what I have to, what I'm actually gonna do, and that's how it starts. And another 90% is improvisation, everything like on right second.
Wow.
Which is very kind of not understandable for people here, because they used to plan everything, the shots, and after what's gonna happen, and the models love have a mood boards, but I'm trying to get rid of it. So no mood boards.
It's actually one of the reasons why we here in Single Shot was so fascinated by your process, because I personally as an artist firmly believe that concept of improvisation have to be restored to our artistic process. Indeed, it became very logical, very planned, and very conscious. The study of subconscious, in a way, started to fade, I would say somewhere in 60s, and it became to be very logic-based. And the further we go, the more conceptual art becomes, the more we expect the viewer not to enjoy what they see emotionally, but to actually involve themselves just on a logical level. Basically, look at the work, then read the description, and try to connect those two. But that essentially, at best, is a different form of art. It's a mixed media with text to it.
Yeah, I think it's very bad when sometimes people do writing under their artworks.
Big ones.
Yes, it's strange. That's then why you show your art. If you have to do the writing, it's not about like it's not a book. He have to find for himself what he see in that art, because when people look at the Mona Lisa, each of them see her different. That doesn't mean that the painter leave us some sort of writing what it's about and where she came from and what she's been doing. It's like it's not the idea of art.
All these academic facts are indeed useful, but I totally agree with you. We really got caught up in this vicious circle of need to explain our artwork. I actually do believe that the whole trend came from academic environment of historical artifacts display, because when people coming to, say, Metropolitan Museum, and they look at anything, whether it's a piece of art or a sword or a piece of pottery, yes, it's interesting to look at it, but without explanation what's the significance of the object, they wouldn't get the whole picture. So at some point, galleries and then museums realize that if you take a piece of fine art and give it the long explanation in the mind of a viewer, it will receive additional artificial importance. And it's especially important to create this illusion of importance. When you're talking about something very simple, it's no secret that our visual art in the past decades became in a way very simplified. So a lot of people, if they just take a look even at the work of a famous and very successful artist like for example, Jeff Koons, they don't know why they should appreciate and why they should revere it. So from there, these descriptions came into the world of big fine art. And then they moved into every gallery. And I do believe that it's really excessive. If it's impossible to comprehend and react on visual art, do we even have right to call it visual art in the end?
I really don't know, because like I don't watch any other artist works, because today I don't know like what kind of art they do, what they create, and because I doesn't like watch other artists stuff. If honestly, it's I'm staying in my concept. But I think that the other things, there's become too many of artists and too many of people who doing visual art, too many people, like every second person he says that, you know, I paint. So if all of you becoming a painter, then how's the real painters gonna get the audience
Well,
for show his stuff or sell it, or have an audience who's coming to see his stuff? And so it's like it's changing a lot. And if everyone's gonna be the artist and everyone's gonna do the visual art, so maybe there is no need anymore to like call yourself artist. And because maybe 15 years ago it was something very important and not many people can call themselves artists, but today all people call themselves artists. They all do or photography or painting, they all organize shows. So there is no...
The overpopulation of the art world is a serious problem, and we will discuss it after this quick break. Hello, this is Alexei G from Single Shot with another single trick. Tonight I want to tell you a little bit about post-production. There is one feature in Photoshop and many other photo editing programs that being used scarcely. That's channels. And there is only one reason why it is so. Nobody understands what it is for. Well, not nobody, but a lot of people don't. So when you see an image just like this, you are getting in channel that. And that's very counterintuitive, because you actually supposed to be seeing this. 3 separate sets of color, not of grayscale. So if you would think of each channel as specific color, for example, of red being red instead of grays, blue being blue instead of grays, and green likewise, you'll find channels very useful for editing. All right, we're back, and we was talking before the break about the overpopulation of the art world. And as a side note, I have to compliment and salute your bravery to actually admit that you're trying to focus on your artistic vision, not on other people's work. It is a very well guarded secret in art world that most of the artists doing exactly that, but everybody is trying to say that they're interested in other people's work, trying to throw around the names, trying to put themselves in the context of the art world, and I'm not really sure if they're doing the right thing, even pretending to do that. The fresh view, the personal inspiration, the personality of the artist is probably the most important thing, and focusing on that indeed helps a lot. And you was mentioning during the break that you believe that this whole process is actually created by standard visual arts education.
Yes, when you go to school, they make you read all the history of art, how it's happened, all the about the avant-garde, the surrealism, and then they make you read the biography, then they make you read about the pieces, and it's all they think if you read all that as much as you read the books about art, as much you're going to be good artist. But I think it's no good, because when you read too much, you just become someone who tells another artist's story, and what's about your story. So I don't think
Precisely.
that one of the million maybe can create a new visual art because he gets so much information and he comes up with some sort of new ideas. But mostly the students continue do the stuff which like this artist been doing, or they copy them. So that's why it's hardly comes up like a new stuff now, new lines of art, new creation, something new like no one's done before. So people say you keep copying what's happened like like 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but that's all happening because you watch the examples of what's already been happening.
Indeed. Well, that's precisely the remains of the approach of 19th and early 20th century art. The process of just creating technically the painting was so complicated, and it applied for the photography as well, that it was believed that without mastering it to the perfection, the artists have nowhere to go. And just to give you an example, Pablo Picasso had actually an extremely serious formal education in traditional fine art, and it probably wasn't easy for him to stray away from this and to go in a completely different direction, but he did.
Yes.
But most people didn't, and up to this day, indeed, it continues to be this way.
I had the same problem on my education during the years when I was studying, because lots of teachers, most of them, was telling me that this is wrong, this is not professional, you not do this type of photography, it have to be completely different. And I start to realize that in art there is no standards, there is no rules, there is no levels, there is nothing. No one can tell you you're doing wrong, because there is no wrong and right. And people start make those rules because maybe it's easier for them to create that way, or realize, or I don't know. And I understand that all those not for me. I'm not gonna go to by the rules, because actually there is no rules. So when you look the photography, you can say this photography is wrong because the color correction is wrong. No, it's his vision. There is no color correction.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, all this coming from the assumption that photography's role is depicting reality, as we mentioned a little bit earlier and numerously mentioned on this program before. It's probably time for us to admit that it's not anymore. Just like painting long time ago stopped being just a media for depicting reality as it is, it's probably time for us to admit that photography is not just to show what we've seen before, not to archive it, but to create something new. And that's, as I understand, exactly what you're capitalizing on creating something that never been happening on this planet before, and probably not even possible to happen in some cases, just physically.
I don't know how long photography is still gonna be around.
Oh, it will stay.
Because of like new technology, when people trying now change the photography, make it moving photography, or I don't know, it's become all kind of different ways. So basically, there is no more pushing on a real photography. They're trying now bring it to the digital, and where they do the creation now. So it's mostly it's a retouching, and the regular natural photography, it's kind of using his power. So for me, I really hope that photography is still gonna stay for a while at least, because the technology is really very fast growing.
Well, I'm pretty sure it will not go anywhere. Again, we have this beautiful example of painting in front of us when we think about the future of photography. I don't believe that media will die, and what I do suspect will happen, it will start to divide itself in several different medias. Right now we have already a very vivid division of traditional Associated Press and Magnum style photography, which is primarily black and white, film preferably, that is very little modified after the shot is taken, and firmly rooted in the reality. But what you, I, and many other people are trying to create is a completely new media based on this traditional photography, but without approaching it in the same way. And at least we already have this division, and it's probably going to continue to divide as long as technological evolution will be giving us more and more different ways in which it can be taken. But it already became to be pretty vivid, and you actually might be surprised, but when it comes to the world of art critics and reputable galleries, they still up to this day trying to focus on traditional black and white film photography, and that's what even commercially is still most profitable area in photography. That's exactly why success of what you're doing is in a way a little miracle and a huge inspiration for all of us.
I don't know, sometimes I have feeling that something new gonna come, and theater and photography and maybe painting, I don't know, something new gonna come which gonna take over of all of this, because it's kind of been around for a long time, and I think people waiting for something really new. And I don't know why I always have this feeling, even every time when I post my pictures, I have a feeling like there is something really new gonna come and gonna change all this media. It's gonna be
who
something
knows, maybe
different.
you would be the one who actually will create it. Well, I don't think it actually would be related to technology. It's more related to the approach. If you think if you would think about it, when we would look at the emergence of photography, when it was just starting, it didn't happen in one day. It didn't happen in one swift motion. First, there was camera obscura, which painters started to use in order to create paintings. Then they created something smaller called camera lucida, which not a lot of people even talk about, which they could actually take outside and use to trace the images outdoors. Then photography in its present form as a film photography started to develop when chemists created the solutions that actually would help to convert light into the image, and that was the official beginning of photography.
I think you are right, because people long time be talking about there is actually not going to be the theaters. Since the internet comes up, there is not going to be any more theater, and it's going to be just a TV, it's going to be just a program. But no matter what changed, the actual people still go watch the theater.
Absolutely, so it's a completely different experience. They translating operas from Metropolitan in movie theaters of America for the past 20 years. I don't see them shortage of ticket sales yet. All right, we'll continue after this break.
Thank you.
Today in Single Shot, I'm going to tell you how to make a makeshift pinhole camera. It's actually very simple. All you need is a business card. I'm gonna use mine, but you can use any. You need to apply 2 pieces of duct tape on it, just like this, so they will be overlapping each other. And right in the middle of the cut, from the inside, pierce a small hole. The smaller and rounder it is, the better will be your result. And put this contraption right on the camera, so the hole is right in the middle of the lens space. Then point it at what you would like to take a picture of, put the camera on delay, and take the shot. Voila! You have your pinhole camera shot. Thank you, and watch us on YouTube. Alright, we're back, and we was talking about evolution of photography and anticipated changes, and as I understand, there is a project that you're working on right now that could be that very next step. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, a couple months ago I create a couple examples of moving photography, when actually the space and everything are moving, even the clothes, but the person are staying like on the same position, like you do the photograph, so you stay the same like on a picture, but everything around you are moving. And I'm thinking that maybe in a couple of years ago, this is going to be something when the screens are actually, the photography are going to move, you're going to have it on a frame, and also you're going to be able to hear the noise. Maybe if it's done in the ocean, for example, you see the smell of the ocean. So it's going to be something that reminds you about the moment you had in that time. And I don't know, I have this idea that maybe it's going to be looks like something.
There was a lot of experiments, including motion and some level of three-dimensionality in photography, and that's indeed looks very promising for the future of photography. My understanding is the only thing that stops us is complications in displaying something like this, because it actually requires more or less complex equipment in order to have it displayed. So that's pretty much what stops us from having it easily available. Because ultimately, when it comes to fine art, what's driving it is what people want to take home. What you can put in the museum is also part of it, but ultimately, if a person can't envision having something like this on their wall or in their room, it's really hard to explain to them how it works. So probably once we will have those affordable screens that can be just glued to the wall, that would be the time when projects like this will explode and really become. But as a side note, I actually want to mention that usually when people are trying to create a project in this direction, they're trying to make the subject of the photograph to move and the environment to more or less be static. So as I understand, yours is actually reverse of it. The object of the photograph is static and everything moves around.
And everything moves around, yes. So that was some sort of experiment for me, in which it was very surprising for me when I found out that it's actually something really new. And when you try explain the print company to print it, they just don't know how to do that.
Well, it's physically impossible to print it right now, but who knows what they will invent tomorrow. All right, thank you very much, Anna. It was very inspiring, and we will be watching your progress.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you.
Me too.
I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark for Roundtable. Thanks for watching. See you next week.